The Lagos Ibadan Standard gauge is a $1.5 billion railway track that will connect the southwest cities of Ibadan and Lagos. Nigeria's Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amaechi, says the project is on track for completion by December. He joins us in the studio to discuss the project. Thank you so much, Minister, for joining us today. It's always exciting to hear about rail projects in Nigeria because, as we know, these are the critical infrastructure investments that can really drive economic growth. So let's focus on this Lagos Ibadan project, and can you just give us a status report? I do understand that it's linked to some of the loans that we negotiated with China. Can you just give us a progress report on how that is going?
Well, we have monthly meetings, on-site monthly meetings, where we assess the performance of the contractor and make critical decisions on the way forward. Yesterday was our meeting for the month of February. Next meeting we'll hold in March, and yesterday the meeting held in Ibadan. As a decision, as what we usually do, we have to drive through the right-of-way to ensure that they have been able to take possession of the right-of-way. Good progress, but like I told the pressmen yesterday, the expectation is that the project will be completed on at the end of 2018 December, because we're under immense pressure by Nigerians to deliver on our promises. But the truth is that the contract is awarded for 3 years. But we're compelling, or put this, we were forcing the contractor to do it in 1 year and some few months. These are critical infrastructures that were either not there or they were abandoned. And I hear, like I tell people too, that I hear that the public is saying they're tired of criticism of the past government. We should focus on our assignments. And we're focusing on our assignments. The president himself is impatient with us. He's determined that we'll also deliver on our assignment, because each minister is given a responsibility according to his ministry. And our ministry is focusing on water transportation, which has to do with shipping, maritime. There's huge insecurity in the maritime sector. There's huge rent interest that we're fighting in that sector. In the case of the railway, the president's directive is that we must connect all parts of Nigeria. So we're focusing on the contract that was awarded under President Obasanjo, Lagos to Kano. And the kind of president we have is not one that will say, ignore that contract, go to the one we will award by ourselves. So we're dealing with Lagos to Kano, which the President Obasanjo awarded. And we're also negotiating the loan for the Lagos to Calabar, which President Goodluck Jonathan awarded, while working towards the award of a new contract from Lagos, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. But in the one of the Lagos to Ibadan, which is part of the Lagos to Kano, we've completed the part that goes from Kaduna to Abuja, and we're trying as much as possible to complete that of Lagos to Ibadan. And the speed at which the contractor is working will be from the fact that we are compelling him to work to enable us to meet our date.
Right. I think what is rather unique about railway projects is that, unlike road projects where you can get a private investor to invest and build and toll and recover their investments, it's not that straightforward for rail projects. Very often we have to see the government make the investments one way or the other. And so, given the constraints, the funding constraints that we are seeing in Nigeria right now, I want you to speak to the sustainability of some of these projects that will see them to the end.
I remember that some few months ago, Punch had written that we should stop the noise we're making about railways, and that we could get private investors to invest in railways. And I challenge Punch to please show me where that there has been any rail construction funded by private investors. The capital layout is huge, and most times, 99% of the time, you won't see private investors, because they won't be able to recoup their investment easily. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the federal government of Nigeria to fund real investment, and that's why we're borrowing money from China. The one from Lagos to Ibadan is about $1.5 billion, and we're going to invest another $500 million for the rolling stock. We're maximizing the investment to ensure that there'll be value for money. So if you're waiting for any private investor, you may possibly not get. What you will get is loan facilities.
Right, but while we're trying to get these loans, I know that there will be an element of, if you like, government equity in some of these projects. Mm-hmm. Do we have the funds available for that as well?
They're not readily available. You just have to continue to try. That's why you talk about it.
Because some, for instance, have suggested that even this Lagos Ibadan project, that they're a bit concerned that it will be on track. because they are concerned that the government may not be able to.
No, we've paid our own part of the loan.
You've paid out your
part of the loan. Our own part of the loan is about 72 billion naira, and we have paid. The remaining part is the 85%, which the Chinese government is going to fund, the China Exim Bank, and they are funding. Yeah. They're actually funding. I think fund won't be the problem. The problem will be the fund to go to Lagos, to Calabar, Port Harcourt, to Maiduguri. But Lagos Ibadan, I don't think fund will be the problem. We're also applying for Ibadan to pay for the China Exim Bank to pay for Ibadan to Kano. Right. But the most important thing is that Nigerians need to know that it's challenging. They have to be patient. They have to be understanding, and that the federal government, headed by President Buhari, is determined. In fact, when you see to the president, the most important thing he brings to your knowledge is where were we that we lacked all this infrastructure? Why this infrastructure deficit, the gap that we're trying to close now? So, yes, there's no money, but we're going to look for the money.
All right. If you can just speak briefly about this concession that I understand that GE is being considered for. Now, I know obviously it's not to build rail tracks, but can you just speak to that project and how the private sector can get involved in trying to make our railways work?
This is one question I would have loved to avoid, so I don't put G in a bad light, but I'll have to address it. We're having serious challenges having to have conversation with GE over the narrow gauge. But at the end of the day, if we are successful with GE, it will be a worthwhile investment. The investment is a total of about 3,000 kilometers of rail. Lagos to Maiduguri, which is the old British line, and Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, and then Lagos to Kano, to Funtua, and all that. The idea is that while you're trying to get the standard gauge, you can fix your narrow gauge and get it working. The speed may be 80 kilometers per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. It's better than nothing. And again, it's going to attract business. It's going to be essentially freight related. And when you deal with the freight, you create jobs. So you see, the basic thing that the current government is doing is focusing on infrastructural development. So with GE, we are currently discussing, it's been such a tedious process that I've opted out. I've allowed my ministry to deal with it, and what do you call them? Our advisors. We have advisors. They have to face GE.
Right, but what is the thorny issue? What do you think is making this difficult?
I'm trying as much as possible not to bring GE. GE is an international company. The issues are essentially finance. They expect the federal government to fund $700 million worth of investment. In that case, they are asking that they want to see the track to be in a usable condition. And that will be about $700 million. We've gotten far on that. We've gotten to the point where we've agreed that GE will take the loan by themselves, fund it, and pay back the bank. But there are other issues involved. They want guarantee, they want some waivers, ton of issues that I think, for me, I pulled out to allow the professionals that we have hired to conclude those discussions with GE.
All right. If you can just speak briefly about the airport concessions, if I move to that space a little bit, that is another area that we know that we need to fix. And again, we have not seen very quick progress with that. Can you just speak to your data?
That's why I talk about being patient and being understanding. There are laws. The laws were passed by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the legislature of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And those laws put procedures in place that we have to pass to get to where we want to get to. So the Minister of State for Aviation is currently going through that process. In fact, you have to hire advisors. Then you have to advertise. As soon as I became the Minister for Transportation, that's one of the first statements that we made. To say we'll concession the airports, because the government does not need to manage the airports anymore. Mm-hmm. Private individuals can manage the airport, run the airports, and get the necessary resources that they need. But I also think that we need time, we need understanding, we need government, we need our citizens to be patient with us. Right. What is important is the policy in place? The answer is yes. Are we moving according to schedule? Yes, we are. But we must move according to law. We have a president who is determined to deal with the issue of the rule of law. And you can't jump law. The president won't allow you to jump the law.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned the lawmakers, because I think there is a view that especially as we move so close to the elections, that any misunderstanding between the presidency and the legislature may stifle progress with the economy. And one clear example is the confirmation of members of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank. Can you speak to this?
I thought that question would be left to the the Minister for Finance, actually. But the political aspect of it is that there is no government where there is no conflict. And it occurs from time to time. It's for the state to resolve it. But to talk about the impact on the economy will be left for the Minister for Finance. I'm not saying that I'm not competent to speak on it, but let us leave the area that concerns the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Finance and allow the one that deals with transport to transport.
Because indeed, it's something that potentially can manifest in any sector.
Yeah.
So it's not just the central bank.
Yes, it could manifest in transport. It manifested 2 years ago when they removed about 60 billion from my budget. It manifests here and there. But what will happen is that the two arms of government need to show a lot of maturity. The goal should be, how will Nigerians benefit from this? For instance, when you remove the money that were supposed to fund Ibadan rail has been there for 32 years. And the president said, complete this and take it out of the system. Now somebody goes and removes, maybe you don't like Governor Amaechi, or you don't like the president, or you don't like the system, or you're angry about something, and then you yank it off. But I don't also think that the National Assembly will just look at the budget and yank off anything they like to yank off. I think too, they also may have their processes. That's why I say I try to avoid the political aspect of what you want to go into. But I believe that what should inform all actions by either the executive or the legislature should be the national interest. And that's what I stand for.
Right, but certainly what we're seeing with the oil price and oil production is something that certainly will support the execution of this year's budget. And can you speak to your ministry in terms of how that is supporting your activity?
So far, there are so many projects we intend to start this year, but there are 2 projects we are hoping to complete. And I use the word hope, so Nigerians will hold me to it when we start campaigning. We're hoping to complete Ibadan. Work is ongoing. I intend to meet with them on Friday to assess how far they've gone. I intend to go to site to see what is going on site, just like we do for Lagos Ibadan. We intend to also complete Lagos to Ibadan. I hope we do complete it. The problem we have in Lagos Ibadan is not from Iju to Ibadan. It's from Iju to Apapa. We have problem of pipes, oil pipe, gas pipe, water pipe, sewer. We have the problem of power lines. We have the problem of bridges. We are supposed to demolish 2 bridges, in fact 3 of them, and rebuild them. So there's a huge problem in the area of Lagos. Now, we also encountered a problem yesterday in Abeokuta, and that's why then I gave a new directive that they should move the station at that location to another location. That way the price will come down from 2.8 billion naira to something else, because it was the cost of the land and the compensation that we were supposed to pay was huge, and we need to move out of that place. So these problems may delay, but we hope it will not delay before the first quarter of next year.
But in terms of funding, you're in a good place.
We're in a good place because the Chinese, we hope the Chinese, well, not we hope, there's a commitment because we pay that as. The usual thing before, that is in the past, is that the federal government is not able to pay, its own counterpart funding. Now, what the president did in his regime is to say, pay the counterpart funding in advance. So we're not owing, Nigerian government is not owing its counterpart contribution. Now, it's for the China Exim Bank to pay, and the China Exim Bank pays according to construction, and they are keeping to their own side of the agreement.
All right, Minister, thank you so much for the update, useful insight into what's going on in transportation, especially the railways in Nigeria. Nigeria's Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amaechi.